This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest, the podcast which brings you reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema and instead went straight to DVD, Blu-ray, and streaming media. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me this week are Richard Hawes.
Hello, everybody.
And Tom Jolliffe.
Hi, everybody.
So this week we have a martial arts special as a little tribute to the Fighting Spirit Film Festival, which has been really struggling this year to get off the ground because of various things that happened with COVID, but we wish them all the best. So this week we're going to look at Jiu Jitsu, followed by Death Fighter, Guardian, and Fight of Fury, and Enter the Fire. We've got a right bumper bunch of films this week. Our short shot is going to be a Kung Fu vampire story, and our DTV throwback is the Olivia Gruner starring Nemesis. So without further ado, let's crack on. So our first review this week is Jiu Jitsu. Every 6 years, an ancient order of jiu-jitsu fighters join forces to battle a vicious race of alien invaders. But when a celebrated war hero goes down in defeat, the fate of the planet and mankind hangs in the balance. So this is definitely a mashup of Predator meets Mortal Kombat. It stars Alan Moussi from the remakes of Kickboxer, and we also have the likes of Tony Jaa and Frank Grillo in the mix, and spectacularly Nick Cage. I've got certain feelings about this film, which I'll get into shortly, but first I'm throwing this over to Tom.
Yeah, so this is, I think this is going to be one of those films that divides people sort of down the middle. You're going to sort of love it or hate it, really. It's a little bit, I mean, it's got Nick Cage in, so already it's a little bit gonzo. It just sort of drifts from fight scene to fight scene, sort of through various kind of jungle settings and the odd other sort of location as well. It's a bit funny because you got this great cast in it, and they're obviously spliced in a sort of very particular way. So you use the best of their schedule basically. So it's got a lot of highlights. Tony Jaa gets a couple of fights here and there. Nick Cage does his thing where he's sort of having a lot of fun with it. I quite like Alan Moussi. He's sort of getting better and better, I think, over the last few films I've seen him in. It's got quite a few, good set pieces. They go a little bit overboard with sort of camera movement and stuff like that on a few of them. But yeah, I quite enjoyed it. It's a bit, it's really sort of daft and there's not much logic to it, but I thought it was a lot of fun.
Rich, over to you. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, well, in picking up on the camera angles thing and that, it's directed by Dimitri Logothesis, who shepherded in the new Kickboxer movies, but directed the second one, Retaliation, and that one it had some very particular style visually in the fight scenes, which were quite memorable. There was like that tracking shot of Moussi that was very memorable, and he seems to have got excited by that, and he's like gone full bore on this one to do that. There's one major sequence where the camera's like really following them around, and it goes first person for some reason and out again and all that sort of stuff. I wasn't really with it, but I kind of admire the ambition of going down that route. But yeah, the film itself is definitely a curious beast because it is, as Tom said, basically a bunch of fight scenes put together. Really, really long fight scenes. They go on much longer than you would expect. It's kind of like, in some cases, I mean, they've ripped off Predator so blatantly that, it's the jungle setting, the creature. I mean, it's got this weird sort of mask on that is kind of cloudy, like the Spider-Man film Far From Home.
The Mysterio.
Mysterio, yeah. So he's got like a Mysterio head, but every now and again, like a face pops through. And I wish they didn't show that silly face because that looks ridiculous. Whereas the sort of smokiness looked pretty cool. So yeah, they're fighting. It's like if the Predator liked to have sword fights to a certain extent, and it's a strange structure because they're kind of journeying through and just sort of having these encounters, but it never sort of feels like you fully understand what the story is and what. And the main problem I had is I don't understand why it was called Jiu Jitsu, because I don't think that was fully established well enough, although it seems to have been in the source graphic novel, which I was looking at, which the synopsis for just reads quite different, although very similar in certain respects. But, you know, like lots more backstory in establishing the world and the reason for this. Whereas in this case, it was just kind of, there's a guy, he just starts meeting up with people. They've got to get to this destination at the end so he can have this final showdown, which he basically wimped out of the first time round. And he's got to have another go. And that's it. And along the way, we get encounters with all these great performers. You know, Moosey himself's really good. Tony Jaa obviously is excellent. Nicolas Cage gets to be all cagey and stuff, and gets to be and intercut with his stunt double doing some quite elaborate moves as well. And also Maurice Crump and Juju Chan, and obviously Frank Grillo's in the mix as well. Rick Yoon's in there, but he doesn't do a fight scene or anything. But yeah, so the cast is really good. Visually, it looks quite striking at times. It was all shot in Cyprus, the first ever Hollywood film to be shot entirely there. I think there's a lot to recommend it, but it is a bit of a mess. And I think it will probably be most fun if you just make it into like a drinking game where you have a shot every time someone says jiu-jitsu or something like that.
I'm sort of like 60-40, maybe 70-30 on this one. What I enjoyed, what I didn't like. What did you guys think of the comic book inserts to sort of get from scene to scene? Did that help or hinder the film for you?
It's just like a framing device, isn't it? It sort of fragments it a bit, makes it a bit more like it's kind of been like a Tarantino kind of thing where they've broken up into these like distinct chapters. Yeah. And that sort of, if anything, it sort of breaks the movie up even more than it already feels, if you see what I mean, from my view.
This really felt like a long film for me, and it is. I mean, it's like 1 hour 45 minutes, I think.
For a very thin story that really makes no sense.
There were moments in this thing where I'm thinking this is brilliant, and there are moments in this thing where I'm thinking, wake me up. You know. Okay.
What was brilliant?
What do you think? Okay, the whole bit with Tony Jaa breaking Alan Moosey's character out of the army base. That whole sequence, the way it was filmed, was absolutely superb.
So that's the way we get all the first person stuff.
Even the first person stuff, for the first time in ages, that actually clicked with me. And I like the fact that it left the first person, went back to third person, for a couple of things, and then jumped back in. The bit that didn't work is when he's actually flailing his fists around while in first person. That just looks awful. Just leave all that shit out. But putting us there in the mix, basically watching Tony Jaa do his thing, that actually worked really well. So that was fine. I thought the alien suit design was pretty good. Reminded me of the Guyver kind of thing.
Yeah, it's Guyverish. Yeah,
the guy doing playing the alien. He's done a lot of stunt double work for the likes of Jason Momoa. He was really good in that role.
Ryan Turan.
That's him. Yeah. So there's bits here. The cast as well. I mean, it was great to see Rick Yoon sort of in this. I haven't seen him in anything since The Fifth Commandment. He's probably done stuff since then, but that was the last thing I saw him in.
I think it was the villain in Olympus Has Fallen, although I've not seen it.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, the first one. Yeah. But I've got issues with Alan Moosey. He's a good performer, martial arts performer, but he's a terrible actor. He has zero expression on his face. The guy is a plank, I'm afraid to say. He really is. And I really wish somebody else was in that role, but there you go. What else could I say? Oh, so Nicolas Cage. I mean, we see him briefly at the beginning as on this fishing boat, and then he disappears.
Yeah, he disappears completely.
Completely.
You think, oh, they're going to show him, and it's like, no, not at all.
And I've forgotten about him. When he eventually turns up, and it's such a weird sequence. Alamusi falls through this hole in the ground, and he basically lands in Nicolas Cage's lair. And the first thought that came to my head was, I bet they just filmed this in Nick Cage's house. This is where Nick Cage actually lives. And his performance was superb. It wasn't. This is Nick Cage. He wasn't over the top. It was a bit larger than life, but it actually suited the film. Unlike his performance in Color Out of Space, which we talked about ages ago, which just didn't fit the film. This one, I think he's brilliant. He absolutely is, and I thought it was great every time he's on the screen.
It definitely fit better than something like Outcast, which
Yeah.
is a similar kind of environment, although more medieval kind of style.
Yeah. So yeah, I there are bits I really like. The fights were good. Tony Jaa's always great to watch. There are a few sort of silly bits here and there. But yeah,
what did you feel about the beginning of the movie? Because it opens with this kind of chase through the jungle.
But yeah, the CGI sort of throwing star things just look really bad.
Yeah, don't you think he's the worst shot ever for like this fantastic hunter?
Yeah.
He doesn't hit anyone at any point with those things.
Well, not only that, but the whole thing, there's a bit where he attacks Tony Jaa and Alamusi after left the army base, but doesn't kill them. He's just playing around with them. The whole thing with the sort of predator vision thing, I thought was awful. It really was. It added nothing to the film at all. I think they were trying to do something to say that the hooded cloak things that the guys were wearing actually cloaks them from his vision thing, because it's only when they sort of take the hood off we go, oh, there he is with the heartbeat and everything. But no, I thought those bits just killed the film. The music was wrong for those bits. It was just dull, unfortunately. But yeah, so I mean, I think between this and Kickboxer Retaliation, I think they're probably on a level pegging with me.
I think that worked better as a film, as a story, whereas this one for me just didn't quite work. Mainly because I don't understand. Did I miss anything? Did you follow why it's called Jiu Jitsu?
No, and I'm sure that anyone who studies Jiu Jitsu, I'm sure anyone who studies Jiu Jitsu is going to be scratching their heads, going, "Why?"
It's just seems completely arbitrary. They could have called it karate or Krav Maga, or I don't know or Muay Thai. It's probably more appropriate.
Exactly, because there is more Muay Thai in there than anything else. But I mean,
I guess it makes it stand out, apart from calling it whatever alien hunting ground or something, or just some sort of random title,
typical generic thing. Yeah.
I just worry about whether people will engage with that.
Yeah, the comedy side of it I quite liked as well. The translator guy.
Yeah, Tex, played by Eddie Steeples. He was good, wasn't he? Really,
I thought he was pretty good in this. Yeah, quite enjoyed his performance. So yeah, overall, it was the good outweighed the bad, but there's a lot of bad. Even for a seasoned sort of DTV fan like we are, it could have lost about 10-15 minutes, I think.
So Tom, the fact that we've got Frank Grillo and Tony Jaa, and the sort of fantastical setting, so it automatically makes you think of when Frank Grillo teamed up with Iko Uwais for Beyond Skyline. How do you think the two would fit as a double bill?
I don't know. I was a little bit disappointed with Grillo in this. I just think he wasn't given that much to do.
No,
I think you're right.
He's got such a good presence normally that you expect him to be more sort of central to it.
Yeah.
But I don't really remember him doing much in the film.
No.
The worst bit for him is at the end. You know, he throws a knife at the alien and stabs her in the chest with it. The alien pulls it out and uses the knife to kill one of the team. And the expression on Frank Grillo's face is just like, okay, you know, it's almost like he's looking at the camera going, what am I meant to be looking at? You know, I don't think they'd actually decided at that point. It's just like, yeah, just kind of look over in that direction, Frank. Yeah, but why? But yeah. Okay. Scores, guys. So, Rich?
Well, I think they're still good. I think there's still a lot that's interesting and entertaining about it. So I'm going to go 7.
Mm-hmm. And Tom?
I think I'll go for a 6. Solid 6.
Yeah, solid 6 for this one. I'm going to go for a 7 as well. As I said, I think the good outweighs the bad. It could be shorter. There are some weird bits, and yeah, the central person is a plank as far as I'm concerned. But there you go. So 2 7s and a 6 for Jiu Jitsu. Our next review is Death Fighter. When an American cop witnesses mentor's murder in a trade deal gone wrong, he finds himself on the wrong side of the law in Thailand. But despite the bounty on his head and pressure to leave the country, he teams up with an ex-military mercenary out to settle a score of his own to bring the killers to justice. Their quest for vengeance brings them face to face with a band of notorious criminals who vow to take them down if the jungle's natural elements don't kill them first. Okay, straight over to Rich.
This one's set in Thailand, and it's got a lot of similar features to Jiu Jitsu in that it's mainly set in a jungle. It's got a fantastic ensemble of performers. Say we've got Don Wilson is the headliner, but we've also got Matt Mullins, Cynthia Rothrock, Joe Lewis is in it for a bit, Jawad El Berni, and there's a great Thai martial artist whose name I probably can't pronounce. I think it's Shiranan Manahim. And there's some really good action in it. I've seen it before. It's been out a little while, but it was much better. The action, at least, much better than I remember watching it when it came out a little. I don't know, must have been a year ago since I saw it. It was made many years ago. It took a very long time to get released. Originally called White Tiger, and the White Tiger of the title is Matt Mullins' character. And in a way, I think the thing that sort of jumps out at me at this film is that it's the best Scott Adkins film that Scott Adkins hasn't made. Yeah. Because Matt Mullins is such a lookalike of Adkins, and they both come up around the same amount of time. But he never really he hasn't broken out in the same way. He did Blood Fist 2050, which really impressed. It's a really low budget Roger Corman movie. He really impressed me with his fight scenes in that. And here he is teaming up with Don Wilson, the star of the rest of the Blood Fist series, and they're quite a good pair. Cynthia Rothrock is underused, but she often is these days. There's a great village action sequence, particularly, but some of the climax action scenes. But the guy who directed this is Toby Russell, son of Ken Russell, who is one of the guys who's basically responsible for bringing Hong Kong cinema and fandom into Britain specifically. So he knows his stuff, and he knows how to do a good scene. The fight scenes are shot really well. They're not overcut. So yeah, it's one that not many people know about, I don't think, but I think it's definitely worth seeking out.
Yeah, absolutely. This is available on Amazon Prime at the moment. So if you're a Prime subscriber, you can find it. I agree with you. I mean, I really liked Matt Mullins in this. He was the sort of the final guy in Blood and Bone as well. Sort of the one that Michael J. White stuff like. Yeah. And also he played one of the characters in one of the Mortal Kombat web series a few years back as well. and he was really good in that. He played the one who's like the TV star or something.
Yeah, Johnny Cage.
Johnny Cage, that's it. Yeah,
Mortal Kombat Legacy.
Yeah, that's it. He was really good in that as well. So yeah, I was really impressed to sort of see him in a leading role for once. As you say, Cynthia Rothrock not quite used as much, and her fight scene at the end is the most heavily edited in the film as well. I'm not sure why that happened to be, but yeah, this is a lot of fun. As you say, that village sequence was really good as well. So,
especially the fighting underneath the house bit.
Yes, that's right. Very reminiscent of Drunken Master 2, actually, that sequence. I thought that worked really well.
And the same guy who does that fight, does that scene, also does a scene where he's fighting on top of a truck, which is pretty damn good as well.
Oh yeah, that whole bit was really cool. Yeah. So yeah, this was a nice little find, this on Prime for me. Tom, have you seen this one?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I was quite surprised really that it's taken so long to sort of come out. I think what it was like 5 or 6 years ago they filmed it, or maybe even longer than that.
Yeah, I think it was around like 2012 or something. And Joe Lewis, who was in the big first part of the film, has died many years ago now.
Yeah, I mean, I've sort of kept half an eye on it for so long. You just lost track of when it would actually finally come out. Mm-hmm. But no, I enjoyed it. I'm a big fan of Don and Cynthia, so seeing them sort of back in action again is quite good because they tend to be sort of cameo artists these days.
Yeah, I think in terms of Don Wilson, it's one of only two that are like really sort of stand out from the last 20 years. And I think the other one is the Jesse Johnson movie he did.
The Last Sentinel.
Last Sentinel.
Yeah, so it's good to see them back sort of, doing their thing. Nice fight scenes. It kind of, like you said, Rich, it's some similarities with Jiu Jitsu in the way that it's sort of similar settings, but it kind of drifts from scene to scene, action scene to action scene. So some of the settings got a little bit repetitive, but otherwise it was good fun.
That opening sequence, you mentioned that he's like the poor man's Scott Adkins to a certain.
Well, I didn't say poor man's. I said it's like easily confused with. I mean, he's got some spectacular moves. He really does. I mean, they're very comparable. I would say he just hasn't had the success that Adkins has had. He just looks a lot like it.
Yeah, I remove my statement, Your Honour. But the opening sequence, I'm watching it and I'm thinking, have I seen this film before? And the reason I thought that is that the whole opening bit with that chase thing through the jungle, it is so reminiscent of the beginning of Hard Target 2.
Yeah, well, it is. A few bits of the film did remind me of Hard Target 2 again because of that Scott Adkins element,
Definitely, yeah. But this is definitely worth checking out, I think, if you're a Prime subscriber. And if not, then you can always rent it. It's online, so yeah, worth doing.
What do you think about the retitling of it?
Yeah, that was a bit weird. I can't remember how the titles come up at the beginning, but I did notice it was still called White Tiger over the end credits.
Yeah, but Death Fighter is like... It's like one of those 1980s, just let's grab two words and put them together.
Absolutely, yeah. Just put random words in a hat and pick them out and see what we end up with. Oh, Death Fighter. But yeah, I mean, well, I think, isn't it one called Fist Fighter and Fist Shooter and all this sort of stuff? Bolo Young.
Shoot Fighter and all
Shoot Fighter, yeah, exactly. But anyway.
Yeah, there's all sorts.
Yeah. Scores on the doors, guys. I'm going to give this one a solid 7. Tom?
I'll go for a solid 7 as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go slightly lower on this one. I think that in terms of the plotting and that, I was less engaged. I think the action's really good, but the other elements for me let it down a bit. So I'm going to go 6.
Okay. So yeah, we mentioned Toby Russell directed this. I mean, obviously, I used to have a copy of Cinema of Vengeance, which was his documentary about Hong Kong cinema back in the 90s, and he also did Top Fighter, I believe, was the follow-up to that. But it's great to see him doing like a proper feature. So yeah, I'm glad it finally did managed to get released. So 2 7s and a 6 for Death Fighter. Go check it out. Our next review is Guardian. After the mysterious death of her undercover cop husband, a female martial artist must protect her daughter from corrupt police, politicians, and hired assassins who will do anything to conceal the truth. ... So we've seen this film, or a version of this film, numerous times, Rich. Fury.
Fury came to
Maria was another one, the Filipino one.
Yep.
It is a copper plate, sort of like, female martial artist protecting a sort of sibling or loved one. I've got one major issue with this film, and that is the fucking cinematography. Not the cinematography, but the camera work is atrocious in this film, as is the editing, but more so the actual camera work. It was awful.
It was kind of, well, one of the things I picked up when I first watched it, and I think I messaged you at the time to tell you about it, and it was like, this, I'm not sure about this, because the fight scene that opens the film is just so terribly shot. I wasn't sure whether it was gonna get any better. I think it does. But,
overall, I didn't mind this, but the camera work was just like, I haven't seen such bad camera work since The Expendables. I mean, or Gamer was the other one. I think someone described Gamer as the cameraman was sort of trying to film while strapped to two rollerblades. Absolutely ridiculous. No, that just fucking did my head in. I mean, story-wise, it's fine. Acting, it's fine. You could tell in between all the edits and things that they've put the work in. People are actually sort of, doing decent action stuff. It's just not being filmed properly. And that is a real detriment to the film, which is a shame. So, Tom, what did you make of this?
I've not actually seen it.
You've not actually seen this, of course.
Have you heard of it?
Put me off. I've not heard of it either.
So this is one I've wanted to see for years. This is from 2014, and it's only just, as far as I'm aware, it's only just turned up on Prime. It wasn't at all what I was expecting. The film stars, or nominally stars, a Hollywood actress called Sarah Carter, who had sort of almost broken out with DOA, Dead or Alive, with Corey Ewan until 2006. And I was really interested to see how this was gonna play out with her in an Asian setting, but she ends up being much more of a supporting character for the most part. And I didn't realize that it's like a full-on Indonesian movie with only her scenes and a few others that are actually in English. That's not a bad thing, but it was just quite a surprise to say, oh, it's like a full-on, Indonesian action movie with a very distinctive style. They've really gone to town with some big attempts at kind of big car crash visual effects and stuff, which doesn't quite work, but I can't call it the ambition. No. Yeah. But it reminded me of that short film, The Cure, we watched, where they were just using cars. There's some CGI sort of CGI bits, but at the same time, there's some bits where you can tell the cars are only going 10 miles an hour, in order to do the stunts and things. It's like, but anyway. But the ambition is what you're saying. Yeah, there's a very long gun battle come car chase scene, runs for about 8 minutes. So that was quite striking. There's a lot of action in the movie, so you do get your money's worth, definitely. So the fights are quite choppy. There's another notable sequence where there's a heavy assault on one of the characters' homes. Like seriously, like blowing it completely to hell with them. It's like they might as well have just thrown an explosive in there rather than just wasting all these rounds of ammunition. The motivation behind the action is a villain trying to cut ties with his past, get more respectability or whatever, hide the skeletons in his closet, that sort of thing. That didn't really work for me hugely. It sort of seemed a bit like overkill. I'm sure that he could have come up with a better plan, but it deeply flawed, but very entertaining, in places. So yeah, I think for enthusiasts, it's well worth seeking out.
There are some silly bits as well, like the whole thing with the daughter. After the house gets attacked and they manage to sort of sneak off, and they're sort of just going like, literally going, right, be quiet. We want to sort of get away, so get away car and go off. And the daughter's just going, Mom, why are they trying to kill us? Mom, tell me now. It's like, oh, for God's sake, at least get in the car and start driving somewhere before you start sort of doing this. Oh,
unfortunately, she's not a very good actress.
She's not very good.
She's not very good, unfortunately. No, it's it's a bit patchy. It definitely is a bit patchy. But I like the ending was really big, and they do they try to work some CGI into some quite impressive falls. So like a character falls through off a balcony and actually you see them land. So what they've done is they've done some CG and they've taken away the mat and stuff like that. So I think I admire some of the ambition with some of the sequences. Really, that's what makes it notable. That's what makes it worth seeing, I think.
Yeah, no, it's if you can handle the camera work, then this is worth seeing. But and you'll know once the thing happens in the bathroom, whether or not it's for you or not. There's a stupid bloody opening sequence as well. I won't call it in media res. It's like a flashback of a flashback, but it doesn't do anything. And it keeps drifting off to the titles and then coming back. I'm thinking it was the worst title sequence I've seen for a while, because it just didn't do anything except elongate the film.
Yeah, there are a lot of bits that just don't work.
Yeah, but somewhere in there, if you sort of wipe off the grime and everything, you might sort of find a bit of a flawed gem sort of sitting in the middle of it.
Another thing is Sarah Carter's supposed to be, and you don't realize this until late in the movie, I think she's actually supposed to be Spanish or Mexican or something, but she's like the most
American,
the most white blonde American you could get.
I think she might be supposed to be Spanish, because they sort of talk about trying to get her back to Spain.
Paquita is her name. The character's name. But I wasn't sure what was happening with her at the first, because it was like, oh, is she a baddie?
That element was quite good, because you assume that the people attacking the house are working for her, or she's working with them or something, and then it turns out to be something entirely different is going on, which I really liked. I really did like that sort of little plot twist. So yeah,
I just have to correct myself with saying, although Sarah Carter does look very American, she's actually Canadian.
Well,
but that's why she gets cast in loads of stuff, like she was in like Smallville and stuff like that. That's another thing I knew her from. But she's done loads of American TV. But yeah, I liked her in it. I just did, the film didn't offer her a huge amount to do, but I can understand the desire to cast a marketable, Hollywood actress in a film that otherwise might go pretty unnoticed. It seems it went pretty unnoticed anyway.
Yeah,
I don't think it had much of a release anywhere, but I was glad to see it. It's got some good moments. I'm going to give it a 6.
Yeah, I think I'll join you on a 6 on this one. It's worth checking out. If you can handle the camera work, I think your brain may eventually get adjusted to it as it's going on. But some of it is really rough, really, really rough. Anyway, 2 6s for Guardian. Our next review is Fight of Fury. When the master of martial arts, ex-Gurkha soldier, uncovers widespread sex trafficking network in his own backyard in Los Angeles, with the help of runaway victims, he orchestrates massive attack on the traffickers. That wasn't my writing, folks. That was IMDb, and I imagine that's been translated from another language. Okay, so I'm going to throw this over to Rich to begin with. Maybe he can make sense of this.
Okay, so every now and again, a film comes along that's so bad, but it is so good at the same time that you have to tell people about. So this is you could kind of compare it to something like The Room, although I've never seen The Room. But it's just so transcendently badly executed in many respects that it's just fantastically entertaining to watch. It's a vanity project essentially for its star, who's also the director, Shuni B, who's a Nepalese martial artist. I can't criticize his credentials as a martial artist, because I can tell he's very good, you know, in real life, and he's a teacher and trainer and stuff. But as an actor, as a hero in the movie that he's, you know, written for himself, it's pretty bad, and there's a lot to cover. It's a bit, I would say, micro budget movie. There's no big stars in it. There's a guy who looks like Chuck Liddell, who's one of the villains in the movie. That's probably about as close to, you know, any sort of big star status you get with the movie. But yeah, he's training people. His lines are all ADR'd and have this weird echoey sound to them. Yeah. So it's like, so there's this weird sort of weird atmosphere to the movie from the get-go with all that, and it's not. It happens with some of the other actors as well, because most people are you know, dubbed or ADR'd or whatever. But you've got that. He's showcasing his moves in various scenes where, in the traditional style, they come at him one by one. You know, they wait their turn. But you know, that all sort of adds to it. There's a scene where he goes to face down some villains in literally someone's backyard, and he's dressed in this like leather ensemble with like yellow on it, which is his homage to Bruce Lee's Game of Death. He even gets the nunchucks out and stuff, I think, if I recall correctly. And yeah, that's quite amusing. The bits where it falls down mainly are in Shuni B's building himself up as a hero and like a savior to some of these characters, and his really creepiness with his love interest, who he rescues. She looks like a lot younger than him, and it's really awkward. And she's like, oh yeah, and she really sort of seems into it, but you know, like in real life, she'd be like, yeah, no, you know, I like you and everything. You know, yeah. It's like he's just rescued this girl, and then he sort of starts sitting on the desk, sitting really close, leaning in. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, before I rattle on too long, Mike, how did you get on with it?
Oh God. Yeah, as you say, this is it's a bizarre film. Do you know what the weirdest thing about this was? It actually left me wanting more.
Yeah, because it has no ending.
It's got no ending. It ends just before the big climactic battle, and I was like, "What? No."
Yeah, exactly. Why? And the funny thing is, he does this dramatic kick up into the air, literally only for the audience, because in terms of the film, you know, the world of the film, doing that kick makes no sense whatsoever.
No. So, there's this whole stuff with his daughter as well. You know, his
real life daughter as well.
His real life daughter. He's spending an inordinate amount of time sort of following her around. You know, there's this whole after school special bit where she gets pulled into the principal's office because she's the honor student, because she defended herself and beat the shit out of some dickweed kid at school. You know, she ends up in the principal's office, and it's a whole sort of like Cosby Show kind of thing. It just goes on and on. Yeah, loads of weird scenes in this. There really are. It's just a mess.
What about the going back to his creepiness? What about the sort of martial arts training scene, which turns into a love scene, which is like, it's like he starts like hugging her and stuff, which is like
freaky. Like, yeah.
And the thing is that sort of spreads from his thing. You got that first bit of the film right at the start when he's doing his training class, and it's like the most chaotic. It seems the most chaotic training thing ever, and they're all like, they're trying to fight off these men who are attacking them, and it's just awkward. The thing is weird.
It is a bit weird, but at the same time, I can see the merit in that, especially when he's actually teaching the girl the same sort of thing. When I used to, when I was doing martial arts, what they used to say was, if you're sparring and things like that, if you're in a real fight, it's not going to stop just because you got hurt or whatever, or because you're a bit tired. It's not going to stop. You got to figure out how to keep going, and that's what he was trying to teach her. You're being overwhelmed, but you keep fighting and fighting and fighting until you sort of get somewhere. So I kind of like that sort of thing that he was teaching. But as you say, it sort of like then started to sort of go into this sort of like this love scene kind of thing, which is like, no, please. But we're talking about other dodgy love scenes in our next review.
Yeah, but what about the bit where he starts talking about his what happened to his wife? And that
I can't
really
remember.
sort of weird.
What happened to his wife? I can't remember. I know she died.
Yeah, but I can't remember exactly what happened. But they're sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
And he starts telling basically his new love interest what happened to his wife, and the camera sort of cut. The angle changes. So instead of him talking to her, he's like doing direct address to the camera, like just his head. And it's like we're supposed to be connecting with him also. It's a stylistic choice they've obviously gone for, but it just doesn't work. The other thing is the music in the movie. The sound mix is all over the place. Oh, yeah. So the music is really overwhelming the dialogue in some of the scenes. It's so weirdly mixed.
There was, I was complaining in our last review in Guardian about the camera work. There is one particular scene in this where you can tell the cameraman literally picks the camera up and then moves it a couple of yards to the right and places it back down. It is that bad, and they just sort of didn't think to cut or anything. So no, we'll just move the camera; it'll be fine. So it's sort of various things like that throughout the film. But
thinking of another bit. Do you remember? So his daughter gets kidnapped. She's got some quite good moves because he's trained her, so she gets like a little fight scene bit as well. But she gets kidnapped, and he has to rescue her. But then he takes time out to go to the bar to meet up with some of the survivors, I guess, who are because there's this scene at the beginning where they're drugged by this real douchebag who they seem to go, oh yeah, and he goes, yeah, have some of this, and they drug him, and I'm like, they're the most stupid people ever. Basically. And then he comes back to the same bar, and everything's fine now, and thanks for looking after us, and he comes along and shares some wisdom and stuff, and I'm like, where's your priorities, dude? You're trying to, I thought there was a sense of urgency here. Yeah,
exactly. It's a bizarre film. It really is, and I had no idea what I was letting myself in for. Well, I kind of did, because you'd said on sort of Messenger that you can't wait to talk about it, and I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. Maybe we found a sort of hidden gem here, and well, in a way, it is.
Yeah, I think because a long time ago we talked about an Indian martial arts film called Warrior Savitri, which I think was, notable for how not good it was in a good way. And then we've also talked about things like Diamond Cartel.
Oh God, yeah.
And I do think this deserves to be watched.
Yeah. When you call this film up on Amazon Prime, it has, like, other people have watched Diamond Cartel. People who watch this film will watch Diamond Cartel as well. I thought, yeah, I bet they have. It'd be on that sort of level.
What I don't understand is why he didn't finish the story, because he made it. It's an hour and 20 minutes long. He could have spent like 5 minutes more. I think he wanted to sort of leave people wanting more and to do a scene.
Well, I do want more. I want to see what happens at the end.
I mean, we did get a pretty cool. I mean, some of the people in it are good, like himself. There are some people who are good performers. They've got some skills, but it's just kind of one of those movies where he's just sort of wandering around, saying stuff. He talks to some villains. He kind of ends up at that. The villains all sit around, by the way. They sit around in their garden with women just standing around, and this is not the only film in which we will see that. But it's kind of a bit of like, it reminds me of, like, you could see Steven Seagal being cast in a movie that does that, because that's kind of one of the things that people know about Steven Seagal when he does interviews. They're like, he'll be sitting on a throne or something, and some some loads of women will be standing around. I think actually Asian Connection did that with him. But anyway, it's crazy. I quite admire Shuni B for pulling this together and trying to do it, but it's good for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I mean, it's from a budget point of view, it's probably on a level to Gino Kang's sort of earlier film, Enter the Fist.
And I would put it along with something like Arapaya's work as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so if you don't mind a bit of sort of low budget sort of martial arts work, I mean, yeah, as you said, you can't really sort of fault him as a martial artist at all. Yeah, but as an actor, it's a non-starter for sure.
Oh, and another funny thing is he wears a jacket at the beginning of the movie. He's wearing a jacket that's got his name on it, but then he says, "My name's Brandon." Yeah. We're supposed to be calling him Brandon for the rest of the movie.
Jesus.
Why didn't he just, if he was going to use his name on his jacket and everything?
Yeah, just call himself Shuni. I mean, it never hurt for Jackie Chan, so there you go. Yeah, okay.
There's many great things like that about it. So you've got to see it. I'm for all the wrong reasons, I'm giving it an 8.
Oh, I can't do that to myself. I'm going to have to give it I'm going to have to give it a 5.
I completely understand. I completely understand.
Yeah, this is it's one of those sort of train wreck sort of things. You need to see it, to really understand.
There's another thing I've got to point out. At the beginning of the movie, one of the early scenes. Did you know that he's ripped off the music from Nolan's Batman movie?
Yes, I did notice that.
I think it was like from The Dark Knight or something. But I was like, hang on a minute, you can't take.
I think
Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard's music.
I think there's some other sort of music cues in there which I recognise from other things as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, that's the sort of thing you would usually see in like some Thai movies and stuff, where they've used like the Back to the Future theme and different bits and bobs. But for an American production, which is because he lives in America, as far as I know, I'm surprised he got away with it. But I guess being micro budget, you can kind of slip it in under the radar because nobody knows.
Yeah. Anyway, so we've scored this summary. So a 5 and an 8 for I forgot what it's called. What is it called?
Fight of Fury, not to be confused with Flight of Fury, which is the Steven Seagal movie. This is Fight of Fury.
Totally different thing. Yeah, Fight of Fury, a 5 and an 8, and you can find it on Amazon Prime. Our next review is Enter the Fire. On the run from the mob, Jake Bolt visits his estranged foster brother. As the mafia closes in, the two brothers must band together to fend off the mafia, while trying not to kill each other in the process. So there's some good parts to this, I will admit. But that opening fight, Rich.
With the Australian guy.
That was the worst thing I've seen ever. It's supposed to be a mixed martial arts movie.
You got
two people in the cage, and oh my god, it's a test card. It really is. There's nothing going on. They're not even throwing punches. It is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And the way to start a film, I thought, am I going to be able to sit through this? In all honesty, it was dreadful. It really was. The film does pick up a bit better when the brothers meet up. There's a couple of other little bits. It does turn out that our main guy, Ian Lauer, I believe, is the actor. He's actually got some decent moves. I liked his fighting style a lot. And he does eventually get some decent fights. But funny enough, he's supposed to fight the same guy from the beginning at the climax as well.
Yes. Rematch.
But that opening fight was fucking awful. The two brothers work well together. There's a horrible plot contrivance where
Sonia.
Jake meets up with Sonia, and it turns out, in all of what town they were in? Is it Seattle or San Francisco? I think it was
San Francisco.
It was San Francisco, wasn't it? Of all of San Francisco, it turns out his brother has dated the same girl.
Oh, but didn't he sort of effectively set them up? because he sent him to the
to
bar,
that particular bar.
And I think that was kind of implied that that's because I think that's why she started chatting with him so easily.
Because you remind him of her brother.
Or knowing that that he was coming or something. I don't know, but yeah, it did seem a bit weird. Yeah.
So the bad guys in this are quite amusing as well. You mentioned in our previous film that we got sort of bad guys with sort of lots of sort of naked women just sort of hanging around doing nothing. The bad guy in this one just takes it even further, which I thought was really amusing.
Sculptures.
Well, yeah, basically sculptures, but
human sculptures.
The thing about is masseuse as well.
Oh yeah.
And he turns out his way. He goes, right, pay her a salary and sack her, then get me somebody else. I just thought it was really amusing for some reason. But yeah, no, there's some good bits in this. It's more of a relationship sort of drama with a few bits of sort of martial arts thrown in, and a lot of what are supposed to be training montages, but are just training sessions done in real time. It's instead of having a montage, it's just like, I'm just going to show you my whole training routine twice or three times during the course of the film. But there you go. Rich, what do you make of this?
Well, I really want to throw this over to Tom.
Okay.
First to get his take on it, as I know he's a Ferrigno fan.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty much why I watched it. I'm with Mike on sort of the opening fight scene, which was really awful. And I was thinking, oh God, here we go. But yeah, I mean, it does pick up, thankfully, after that. Yeah, and it does sort of drift into becoming this sort of odd relationship drama. But I think the film, it's 70 whatever minutes it is long, 75 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just padded out with so many montages, and there's not really a lot that happens. So, he's supposed to throw a fight at the beginning, he doesn't. And he goes on the run, picks up with his estranged brother. And then he just spends the movie sort of waiting to get caught, basically. Has a bit of a romance, and that's it. So then you got the big rematch at the end. But yeah, I liked it in sort of places. I like the fact that they focused a little bit more on that kind of relationship side rather than just making it a full-on fight film. So there was a little bit more ambition to have a little bit more, I guess, drama than those kind of films often will have. And yeah, I thought the lead guy he wasn't too bad. He sort of has a kind of everyman quality, like he's just wandered out of a gym. So he sort of, that kind of worked for the film, I thought, without him necessarily. He doesn't have the sort of star power of those sort of 90s action guys, but he's got this, he's got a kind of everyman quality. And then yeah, I was watching it for Lou Ferrigno basically, and I thought he had a good presence in it, and he always seems to enjoy what he's doing, so it was good to see him in something again as well.
I thought what was interesting about his character was he was quite a weak villain, because he's kind of established at the beginning as he's in charge, and he's got this fighter who's Jake Bolt is his fighter, who was supposed to throw the fight so that he would please the people above him, I guess, or the people he's in business with, and he doesn't do that. So that's kind of the thing, is he wants him back to fix that up. And when he does get him back, he basically it's like, fool me once, shame on me, fool me once, whatever that expression is. You know what I'm saying? He's like, he basically causes the exact same thing to happen to himself at the end, without wishing to, I know that spoils it, but this movie can't be spoiled a huge amount. But I love the fact that he's called Jake Bolt. I think that's a good character name. It probably deserves to be in a better film, but it's good. Say Ferrigno, he has a couple of fun scenes, but he's not really in it as much. They kind of established that he's almost a father figure for Jake. Like he basically joined him as a very young guy, and I felt what developed, and him betraying him, in the ring and stuff. There wasn't the gravitas that they sort of do that throwback scene, but it doesn't connect. There's not enough there. It's almost like he doesn't even dwell on it or anything, even though it's supposed to be like somebody he's known for at least 15 years. I'm not sure how old it is, but you know what I mean. He's a kid off. There's the stuff with the brother, I think, is good because again they do the flashbacks and they show, well, actually he's an adopted brother. You know, there's an older kid, found him on the street, took him home to his abusive father's house, and just said, hey, you know, just stay with us. You know, it's like, and he takes a beating for bringing the kid home, but that's about it. And they just kind of bond and stay together. So that's quite an interesting dimension. But yeah, the Lou Ferrigno stuff just isn't developed in the way. I mean, it almost seems like they were sort of second guessing themselves of what to do with them. Do you see what I mean? It's like they threw it in as like a last minute thing, or they were not confident that was something that was going to work, so they abandoned it. And they just thought, well, let's focus on the relationship between the brothers and not relationship with Monroe, Ferrigno's character. By the way, the Skull, who's the guy, the guy who's fighting at the beginning and at the end, I thought he looked familiar. He was in American Fighter, which we watched many episodes.
Right.
You know, back earlier in the year. So because he's got a very distinct style. He's called a bit like. Not in the same way, but you know, like how Martin Ford's got that very specific body shape that you remember, and this guy's got this really, you know, very broad shoulders, you know, really sort of powerful looking guy. But yeah, like you say, the fight scene doesn't really, or the fight scenes don't really do either of them justice.
No.
Although Lauer, like you say, in the training scenes and stuff, he looks really impressive, and you know, he's got a great physique, so he's taking his shirt off every 5 seconds.
Well, there's that, and you know, there's a fight at Sonia's gym that was really good. You know, you got to see his moves properly. I don't know, just something went wrong in the filming of those scenes. They had no choreography at all. You know. Well,
Ian Lauer was the choreographer of the film, I believe.
Well, I don't know what happened there then. That was dreadful.
But he doesn't have a huge amount of experience as far as I can tell. So maybe that's what went wrong.
But as I said, I liked his moves. You know, when that gym fight and things, you know, he's got a good sort of series of sort of blocks followed by counter strikes and things. It looks really cool and quite unique. You know, it looked like a quite unique style. And his, you know, the karate katas and things that he's doing in the film all look very good. Good
with the nunchucks as well.
It was just that opening and ending sort of fights with Grundy just didn't really connect at all.
The funny thing is that opening scene feels like an in media res scene.
Almost,
you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like you think, oh, here's the fight and here's how we got to that, but you actually get the opposite. It's like, here's the fight, and then we're actually going to do we're going to return to that fight, but in a rematch way. I don't think they should have jumped into the fight and then had him throw it at that point, because I don't think enough was established. So there's no stakes really to what he's done. You know what I mean? Right, I think there should have been some build up there.
Anyway, scores on the doors.
I'm going to go Tom. I need some more time to think.
Tom, what are you going to score this?
This is a tough one. I'm going to have to go with a 5, I think.
I'm going to join you on a 5, actually.
And I'm going to go for a 5 as well. I did like that you wouldn't like him when he's angry line, which Lauer throws in. It's so they so don't dwell on it that you almost miss it. So I think I quite like how they underplayed that.
Yeah.
You know, by so yeah, and so some good training scenes and stuff. But.
So again, you know, there's a running theme here. This is also available on Amazon Prime.
Other streaming services are available.
Yeah, they are indeed. Yeah, you can always rent it if you don't have Prime. But yeah, check it out if you must. See if you agree with us about that opening fight scene or lack of one. And if you get anything out of it, let us know. So yeah, 3 5s for Enter the Fire.
Our short shot this week is a Kung Fu vampire story. In this one, we have a young Taoist priest who is trying to teach his apprentice how to seal the coffin of for a vampire, but he just wants to go trick-or-treating instead, and comic hijinks ensue. So I think we're familiar, Rich, with the guys who made this one.
Yes, the Martial Club. I think I first became aware of them from the Fighting Spirit Film Festival when they showed a little video that they made there. And yeah, these guys really know their stuff. They're very passionate about the genre, about the Hong Kong martial arts film in particular. So they make lots of short film homages and sketches and different things like that. And yeah, this is the hopping vampire one, basically.
This is brilliant. Basically,
yeah, it's a lot of fun, isn't it?
It is a lot of fun. It starts off a bit rough because although the guys can move really, really well, the comedy is very broad as it is in Hong Kong, anyway. But yeah, this if you're a fan of things like Mr. Vampire and okay, what's that, guys? Oh, that's me. Sorry, bloody video started on me. Could you hear that?
No.
Oh, good. Okay. Oh, totally lost my train of thought. Okay, yes. So, yes, they get this completely right. So, if you're a fan of things like Mr. Vampire and Close Encounters of the Spooky Kind, this is right up your street. The Lam Ching Ying films of the day. They get this spot on, I think. The fast pace, the broad comedy. You got the ball guy doing a very good Sammo Hung impression, even with with the braces and everything. It just really, really worked really well. Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. It was fantastic. So can't really say much more than that. I don't think, really. Bang on all round. I love the comedy as well. They got the choreography of the action really well, but the timing of the comedy was really good as well.
Oh, it's spot on. Yeah, I mean, even things like sort of confusing the did he say the black dog's blood or the chicken blood? I mean, that is a typical setup from things like Mr. Vampire and stuff like that. Did he get the sticky rice? Yeah, well, I got the rice. It's that sort of thing. No, it has to be sticky rice. Yeah, I got the rice. But there you go. Yeah, no, I loved all that. Did you notice that the coffin was basically just made out of cardboard?
Cardboard, yeah. It was basically shot in the garage.
Exactly. It looks like the whole thing was just shot in the garage. I thought, all the props are just like, sort of made by hand, but by these guys. Great job all around. Rich?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I say, these guys have been making films for quite a long time. Films and shorts and little parodies and stuff and all sorts of things they've been doing. They really know, how to choreograph their scenes and how to shoot them really well. Good angles, good cinematography, considering their, the limitations, the colors and the mix and everything they've got going on. Yeah. Tom, are you familiar with these guys before you saw this?
No, not beforehand, but I mean, I'll certainly be looking up some stuff now.
I definitely they did a film about 4 months ago. Well, this one's a 11-minute film. The one they did 4 months ago of Fist of Fury, 12 minutes long. That's really worth watching as well. So it's basically recreating a scene from Fist of Fury, essentially, is what that is. But again, it shows their flair and their enthusiasm. They always do also behind the scenes videos and stuff, which are worth seeing, and they do tricking stuff and all sorts.
Absolutely. Yeah, really smart. As Rich said, we did see one of their shorts at the London Film Festival, so the Fighting Spirit Film Festival a couple of years ago now, and it did blow us away. It was out of competition because it was an old clip, but it really did sort of showcase their work. But yeah, really good to see this. Definitely recommend it. We will put the link into the footnotes, so please check it out. If you're, even if you're not a martial arts fan, I think you'll get something out of the comedy. Our DTV throwback this week is Nemesis, a burned out
LA cyborg cop called Alex is forced by his commissioner to find his former cyborg partner and lover, who's about to deliver sensitive data to cyborg terrorists who wish to wage war against the humans. But is he being played? Okay, so this was sort of made at the height of sort of Albert Pujols' sort of directing powers, I think. So following from the likes of Cyborg with Jean-Claude Van Damme, this stars Olivia Gruner and Tim Thomerson, and is a lot of fun. It's very fast paced, lots of stuff going on, big explosions, lots of good martial arts. I must admit, I hadn't revisited this for a long time, but I loved the the opening bits in the hotel and stuff. I thought it was really good. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this. Tom, over to you.
Yeah, I like a bit of Albert Pujols. And I think this is probably my favourite film of his, I think, as well. It's really stylish. I think when he's given a bit of a budget to work with, particularly back in that kind of era, he had a certain sort of flair. He didn't always sort of piece the films together with, much of an idea of structure sometimes, occasionally, but there's a lot of really good stuff in this, and a lot of stuff that actually got lifted into other films. So, there's a great set piece where Gruner's sort of trapped in a hotel room and he's getting fired upon with like a ridiculous amount of ammo.
And he shoots through the floor.
His only way out is to shoot through the floor, and he goes down sort of five floors, basically shooting his way down. So I think they lifted that into Underworld, I think. With
and Dog Soldiers as well.
Yeah,
they do Dog Soldiers.
Yeah, do something similar. Yeah, I think the original idea came from Escape from New York. I think where he sort of shoots through the wall, but they changed it to sort of shooting through the floor, which is really cool.
Yeah,
these guys shoot through the walls as well.
Yeah.
They create those doors that they break through. Like you say, huge amount of firepower in this movie.
Yeah, it's great. There's just some really sort of, good set pieces, and you got, there's a few moments where there's sort of close up, moments of these cyborgs just getting blown apart by gunfire, which is really sort of impressive.
Yeah, some good sort of prosthetics and things going on here as well. Rich, over to you. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I loved Olivia Gruner back at this time. His films like Automatic and Savage are favourites of mine. This one, not so much of a favourite, but going back and revisiting, I mean, there's so much in it, and like you say, clearly seems to have been quite influential and very, very ambitious at the time. I mean, this is around the time of Hard Boiled, so Pujols has clearly got some Hard Boiled influence on the film.
Lots of two-fisted gun action.
Yeah, and the long coat and all that sort of stuff, and some of the. I mean, there's a whole scene where they're fighting on this what seems to be incredibly long slide, going down the all muddy slide from a building site, kind of, or desolate building place. Anyway, so they have like this long fight, which sort of turns into like a bit of a gunplay scene. So there's all these sort of really notable action sequence, very, very typical of Pujols in that he always seems to assemble great casts. He has desolate locations, usually quite colourful kind of films quite often, and quite ponderous as well. So there's all that is in here. It's got quite of a slow meandering sort of, pondering theme to it, and would you say sort of Alex is thinking about his situation and all that sort of, and the way he's becoming less human. And the thing was, when as the 90s wore on, Pujols had very less money for the big action scenes, so he just kind of did the ponderous sort of meandering stuff instead. But he still managed to get. I mean, he's done Nemesis sequels and stuff, which were largely unrelated to this, I would say. But I mean, so the cast, you mentioned Tim Thomerson. Again, another thing I think was really influential is Tim Thomerson is basically Mr. Smith from The Matrix. Yeah, don't you think? I mean,
definitely
what his
an element of
character
that,
is,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
dresses, and what he's, the way he refers to himself, and what their position is as the sort of the robots sort of who've taken over essentially and are trying to wipe out the human race. But we get Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa again, who we spoke about recently with Danger Zone. We've also got Vince Klin, who's a Pune regular from Cyborg. I think he was the villain in that. Tom Matthews, who we talked about recently with the Never Hike in the Snow short film from the acts, who was in Jason Lives and stuff like that. But he also went on to be in like Kickboxer 4. Margene Holden, Brian James doing a German character accent for no discernible reason other than to have. He seemed to always have fun with the accents, didn't he? Like in Tango and Cash when he was playing the Cockney.
Cool, blimey, yeah.
But also, did you spot little Thomas Jane, little spotty Thomas Jane in that early love scene? Yeah, his face was so spotty, I couldn't believe it. Playing the love interest, because you remember that there's that hotel scene where they're just standing around naked, and just looking out the window and stuff like that. So yeah, that was Thomas Jane.
Good grief.
One of his first movies. But it's the action. That's the thing. I mean, we've spoken in recent episodes about a couple of things like like Danger Zone, like the jumping off of waterfalls and jumping off of cliffs. Big stunts. In this movie, they're jumping through windows. They're literally blown out of a shack or so, building. At one point, I'm amazed nobody got killed. I mean, that looked pretty legit. That scene. There's like 3 stunt people, I think, get blown out of this building. That say they're jumping off of jumping off these waterfalls, and also really, really well done. Say the slide sequence, all the two-fisted gunplay, the opening sequence, even with the sort of desolate area where they're all just sort of gunning for him and shooting for him, and they pull out. The other thing is massive guns. Some of them, they're pulling out these enormous. They're so big, they're strapped to their waist. They're such big weapons in the movie, and literally blowing places to hell with so many bullet holes all over the place. I mean, they really rip the place apart.
We also got that great sequence at the end as well, where it's sort of, you get that sort of stop motion effects sort of thing going on as well. That was really cool.
Oh, that's the other thing, because they do the jump off of the cliff, but it's like a spinning jump, and he turns around to fire the gun.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's that's a pretty dangerous stunt at the best of times, let alone do it all, flipping around and spinning yourself. You've really got to know what you're doing.
Yeah,
exactly. Really, very, very impressive sequence, and it works really well in the movie.
Absolutely. There was, I think there was talk a while ago, because Albert Pyun was trying to get off the ground a restoration for Cyborg, which I believe was originally called Slingers. That was the original name for it.
Yeah, I think he did release his own cut of the film. I think it is available, like you could buy it from his website and stuff. He's done it with Captain America and other stuff as well. Yeah,
and also he was working on sort of adding CGI and sort of remastering this film as well. To sort of add more of a sort of matte painting style backdrop to some of the sort of more desolate scenes, so it didn't look so empty. I think that's what he was aiming at. But I think I saw a couple of little clips sort of on YouTube or something. But it's worth having a look anyway. But this is a classic.
I think he's got quite a severe dementia now. He kind of retired circa 2010, but then he's sort of started to come back and do little projects here and there. I mean, he used to be very, very prolific in films of very varying quality, but he always seems to assemble these great cuts. So, for example, Nemesis 2 isn't a patch on Nemesis, the same sort of desolate landscape, but it's essentially just a cheap Terminator 2 kind of knockoff. Right. Whereas this is a much more Blade Runner kind of ambitious, although the locations are sparse. but they go to the jungle and stuff. It's very interesting to look at the locations.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it goes to the jungle, go to the desert for training thing. Yeah, well, it's rehabilitation, isn't it? It goes to the desert. But yeah, no, really good. Okay, so we don't score the throwbacks, but we will recommend that you check it out. It's there on Prime, as these things tend to be.
I think it's on Blu-ray even.
Yeah, I think you get Blu-ray.
Because another thing I was really surprised, because I haven't seen it since I saw the VHS. The copy on Amazon just looks great.
Yeah,
really pristine. I felt
it is.
So it gives you much more from you get a lot more out of the movie from the quality of that print. Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. And that is the end of this week's show. Thank you for Tom and Rich for joining me this week.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so all the trailers will be in the footnotes. Check them out. We'll also put the link to the Kung Fu Vampire story in the footnotes. Thank you for listening, and tune in again next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.